Hey guys, I wanted to show you in this video how to ascend a rope with using prussics. Now I do have a different ascending rope video where I use Jumars and Atriers and all that other rigmarole, which is more common that you see in the big walling world. But for ascending a rope with prussics, that's more something that you would see in the mountaineering world, and mainly it's a crevasse rescue skill. You can also apply these skills if you're using a fixed line. If there's a bunch of people moving up, maybe a third-class gully or something like that, you can use these for the same deal. Just use a small prussic loop, and then you attach that to your belay loop of your harness and slide that up as you go. But for this one, we're going to pretend like I actually fell into a crevasse, and now I got to ascend up to the lip of the crevasse where my friends can help me out. I realize we're here in the rock world and I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, but we can use our imaginations for this one. So depending on the size of body you have, you can either use a single length sling and a double length sling, like what I like to do. If you're a bit of a taller person, then it's worth cutting your own length of cord. Something a bit longer than this 24-inch sling, and then something a bit longer than this 48-inch sling. These both have different names depending on which organization you learn from. I think most organizations call the shorter sling the waist prussic and the longer sling the leg prussic. At least those are the more common terms for it. But essentially this is just two different prussic hitches, one that you stand up on and the other that you slide up, and then you sit down on the sliding one and then move the standing up one up. I'm going to demonstrate these skills while I'm standing on the ground, but when you practice this, it is worth practicing where you're actually hanging in a rope setting up this stuff, because it does add an extra element. It doesn't make it a whole lot harder, but it does add more to the actual scenario that you would find yourself in while you're using these skills. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my single length sling, and I'm going to make a friction hitch. If I'm using something like 6mm or 5mm cord, a prussic hitch is kind of a good hitch to go with. But since I tend to use these sewn slings, I'm going to use a climb heist. Just a little wrap. There's my climb heist. I can attach this to the belay loop of my harness, or if you're using a mountaineering harness without a belay loop, you can attach it to your upper and lower loops. Below that waist prussic, I'm going to take my double length sling, and I'm going to tie another friction hitch. Again, since it's a sewn sling, I'll do a climb heist, but if I was using specially cut 6mm cord, I would probably opt for a prussic here. Alright, there you go. And it's very important that I put this below my waist sling, because that way it allows me to slide this up as far as I can reach it. Alright, so I'm back to actually sitting on my prussics in the crevasse. I have my waist prussic up here holding my actual weight, and my leg prussic down here. What I'm going to do is slide the leg prussic up about as close to the waist prussic as I can get it. It is nice to leave like an inch of space right there, just so they don't accidentally bind on each other. Stand up on that leg loop, then I slide the waist prussic up as high as I can get it, and then sit down on that. Slide this leg loop up, stand up. Notice how I'm holding onto the rope. When I hold onto the rope, it helps keep my balance over that 1 foot, so that way I can more easily manipulate my waist prussic. And you can see I'm getting like a foot or so of movement every time, which is important because you want to be pretty efficient at moving up this rope to get out of the crevasse pretty quickly. For those of you who are familiar with your rescue systems, you know that it's a bad idea to always have a full life on one single friction hitch, which is exactly the setup here. My whole world is hanging on this single friction hitch, and then I'm only using this as my foot loop, so it's not like this is actually going to catch me if this one fails. And so one thing we have to remember is when we're in a crevasse, we've fallen in and we're at the end of our rope already, so we're starting from the end of our rope. So right now I have a loop that is going to catch me if this fails, and then this one fails, and I slide all the way to the end of my rope. After I get a decent amount of space, or a large loop of rope between me and my friction hitch up here, it's nice to add a different backup end. that's where it's nice to take another locker, and then you can tie whatever knot you want here, but a clove hitch is nice because it's adjustable. And then now, if this waist prusik fails, I'm just going to follow my clove hitch. And the cool part about the clove hitch is, as I move up, I can just push rope through that hitch, pull it down, and then make sure that there's not a whole lot of rope between me and my actual waist prusik. Thanks for watching, guys. Just remember, like any other rescue skill, this is something that you want to be practiced at and be familiar with in a proper environment. It's one thing to practice it on the rock like I'm demonstrating it here, but it's another thing to actually practice it on a snow slope or in a more cold and wet environment, which is generally what a crevasse is. So it's important to be dialed in with your skills. It's also important to know the limitations of your materials. So I know that these two slings can do a lot more than just what I'm using them for. And so I know the versatility of these materials, and then I know how limiting it can be to only be on one friction hitch and knowing to back it up. Other people like to use more specifically cut lengths of cord, like a Texas prusik or something like that, which isn't bad to be hauling yourself out of a crevasse, but it really only has one purpose. And so in mountaineering, we want stuff that's a bit more versatile. So maybe just knowing the ability of your materials will really help you out in various rescue situations, not just crevasse rescue. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. These are just little, I'm just fumbling again. What's the point? I'm just rambling. All right.